The corridors stretch outward like spokes on a wheel. Rows of cells disappear into the distance, each one built for a single prisoner, a single voice, a single mind. The Eastern State Penitentiary opened in 1829. It was considered the future of prison reform, a place where silence would replace violence, where reflection would replace punishment. Instead, it became one of the most criticised prison experiments in history. And nearly 2 centuries later, people still report experiences they struggle to explain. Could a place built around isolation leave something behind? This is Eastern State Penitentiary. Welcome to Something Stayed Here. Some places don't tell you they're haunted. You feel it when you arrive. Designed by architect John Haviland, Eastern State was unlike any prison that had come before it. The cell blocks stretched outwards from a central hub. Every corridor could be watched from a single point. Every prisoner separated from every other prisoner. Supporters called it the Pennsylvania system. The idea seemed revolutionary. Instead of beatings, chains, and public humiliation, criminals would be left alone with their thoughts. No crowds, no conversation, no distractions, just silence. What could possibly go wrong? Above every cell sat a small skylight. Officials called them the eyes of God. The theory was simple. A prisoner would sit beneath the light, reflect on their crimes, and emerge a better person. But prisoners spent almost every hour alone. They ate alone, they worked alone, they slept alone. When they left their cells, black hoods covered their heads. They couldn't see anybody, they couldn't speak, they couldn't even acknowledge another human being. How long can a person endure that? For many inmates, the answer appeared to be not very long. Reports of psychological decline became increasingly common. The prison was attempting to reform the mind. Many believed it was breaking it instead. In 1842, Charles Dickens visited Eastern State. He left deeply disturbed. After touring the prison, he publicly criticised the system, not because of violence, but because of what isolation was doing to the human mind. He described it as suffering hidden from public view, damage that left no obvious scars. More than a century later, historians would reach remarkably similar conclusions. As the prison's grand experiment began to fail, Eastern State became associated with increasingly harsh punishments. One of the most feared was known as the Iron Gag, a metal device designed to stop prisoners from speaking. Any movement would cause severe injury. There was also the mad chair, prisoners restrained so tightly they could barely move. And then there was the hole, a dark punishment cell isolated from light, comfort, and human contact. The prison had been built to encourage reflection, yet some of its punishments became infamous for entirely different reasons. What happens when a prison designed to save people begins to fear the people inside it? Over time, the ideal collapsed. The separate system was gradually abandoned. Prison populations increased, overcrowding grew, violence became more common. What began as a humanitarian experiment became a conventional prison. The dream for perfect reform had failed. Eastern State had become something very different from what its founders had imagined. One of Eastern State's most famous inmates was bank robber Willie Sutton. In 1945, Sutton and several other prisoners escaped through a tunnel dug beneath the prison. The breakout became one of the most famous prison escapes in American history. Even walls designed to isolate people forever couldn't hold everyone inside. Another famous inmate was Al Capone. Unlike most prisoners, Capone's cell contained rugs, furniture, and paintings. Visitors can still see a reconstruction today, yet the room became linked to one of Eastern State's most enduring legends. According to later accounts, guards heard Capone crying during the night, begging someone named Jimmy to leave him alone. Many believed he was referring to James Clark, one of the victims of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Whether the story is true remains impossible to know, but nearly a century later, the tale refuses to disappear. Not every story connected to Eastern State is dark. One of the most famous residents wasn't a prisoner at all. A black Labrador named Pep was given an inmate number and photographed like a convict. Newspapers claimed he had been sentenced for killing the governor's cat. The story spread across America. In reality, Pep had been brought to the prison to improve inmate morale. Eastern State finally closed in 1971. For years it sat abandoned. Nature slowly reclaimed the prison. Roofs collapsed, trees pushed through the brickwork, paint peeled from the cell walls. Unlike many historic sites, Eastern State was never fully restored. Visitors walk through genuine decay, and perhaps that's why the atmosphere feels different. The prison looks wounded, as though part of it never truly left the 20th century. This is where history gives way to stories. Cell Block 12 has become associated with reports of whispers, footsteps, distant laughter, and moving shadows. Some visitors report hearing weeping from empty areas of the block. Others describe sudden drops in temperature. Many experienced nothing unusual at all, yet the stories continue. Why do they keep returning to the same places? One of Eastern State's most famous modern stories involves a locksmith working during the Restoration in 1990. According to the account, he was removing a lock that had remained untouched for more than a century. What happened next has become part of prison folklore. The locksmith later described feeling overwhelmed by an experience he couldn't explain. The incident frightened him enough to leave the area, and over time the story grew. And today it remains one of the most frequently discussed accounts associated with Eastern State. Could there be a simpler explanation? Perhaps. Yet the story still survives. Skeptics point to expectation, old buildings, echoes and suggestion, and they may well be right. Eastern State is a place filled with powerful stories, a place where people arrive already expecting to feel something. But why do so many reports emerge from the same locations? And why do the same stories continue to surface decade after decade? Can a place remember suffering? Or do we simply carry those stories with us when we arrive? Eastern State was built with optimism. Its founders genuinely believed they had found a better way. Instead, the prison became a lesson in what can happen when isolation is pushed too far. Thousands passed through these corridors. Many spent years alone. Some never fully recovered. Maybe that history explains the atmosphere people describe today. Maybe it explains the stories. Or maybe old buildings simply encourage us to imagine things. Either way, Eastern State's experiment ended long ago, yet the silence remains. And for some visitors, it feels as though something else remained with it too. If prisons have a way of holding on to their history, you might want to explore Alcatraz next, because Eastern State wasn't the only place where isolation became part of the punishment. And it certainly wasn't the last. If you enjoyed exploring this haunted place with me, this has been Something Stayed Here.